You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope. I'm your podcast host, Jana Short, and I'm here today with Tom Paladino. Tom has developed scalar light instruments to improve the health of people and animals. Scalar light is an emerging science, and Tom Paladino is one of the pioneers of this new and promising science. So we've been chatting a little bit before we started recording the show, and I'm absolutely fascinated. So thank you so much for being with us today, Tom.
A pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Well, one of the things we do here at Oh My Health, There's Hope is we share a story of hope, which usually leads into why you're doing what you're doing and how you're showing up and serving the world in your zone of genius. So do you want to share your story of hope with us?
I do. And there's great hope. You know, God, as I always say, God is always with us. Well, I'm a scalar light researcher, and by that, I have developed scalar energy instruments. You might remember the man Nikola Tesla. He was working with scalar energy over 100 years ago. Long story short, I've developed custom-built scalar energy instruments. These are not electrical instruments. These are instruments that access the quantum field, or what some people might call consciousness or the mind of God. And with these scalar energy instruments, I can do incredible things, and it far exceeds the ability of any electrical instrument. So as far as I'm concerned, the future really beckons, and the future will be defined by a new technology. Scalar energy will not be defined by electrical energy or nuclear energy.
I love that. Tell us a little bit about how that works. Like you were just sharing that with me, and I think it's so fascinating. I think sometimes it's hard for people to grasp what they can't see or understand, just like chakras. But chakras are like becoming this huge thing now because people are understanding it. But when you don't see it, it doesn't make sense. So can you help us wrap our mind around that?
You're right. Let's speak about chakras. There are 7 points of light. There are 7 scalar energy vortices, and we have those incorporated in our body, in our mind. It's very real. Obviously, they're invisible. Why do we have those chakras? They're points of information. So our 7 chakras are 7 scalar energy command centers, if you will. And by the way, they have been photographed sometimes by way of Kirlian photography. So they are very real. And we're now starting to see a new approach to physics, to wellness, to life in general. We're seeing that there is another information field. What some people again call consciousness, the quantum field, is indeed real. My instrument, as a scalar energy instrument, has a profound influence on the 7 chakras, as well as our brainwaves. And it's always been my contention that our chakras, as well as our brainwaves, are scalar waves. And that's why my instrument has such a wonderful and immediate interface with our 7 chakras and our brainwaves.
I absolutely think that's fascinating. So I want you to explain to people what you were just telling me about how it works, because that's the hard part to wrap your brain around. But I can tell you, I have seen this happen and I've seen it work very well. So can you explain how you work with people?
Sure. I work with people by way of a photograph. This is my photograph. People email me photographs. I actually place their emailed photograph in an instrument. So if you will, a person or an animal bilocates. I am working with your force field on the photograph. I never work with people in person. And with that force field, the ability for me to connect to a force field, I'm able to access a person's quantum field. And that quantum field has never been defined by modern day science, but it's very real. And I consider myself one of the pioneers in this quantum research, if you will. Anyway, long story short, once I have your photograph inside my instrument, I can access that dimension, that scalar energy dimension. It's an informational dimension. And I can improve your health in the quantum field.
Wow. I think that is like amazing. And I'm just going to like say, I feel it's a little bit like being an intuitive, right? Because I know I'm an intuitive. And when I meet somebody, I feel their energy. I can feel if they're pushing out negativity. I can tell if they're not feeling well, like if they're ill or if they're tired. And for people who are moms, think about when your kid comes home and you immediately look at them, right? And you're like, oh, something's not right. What's wrong? Like you feel their energy that's coming out of them. It's that light.
You're right. You're right. And everybody has that source of light. So what am I getting at? Scalar light is everywhere. It's produced by the stars. So I don't care what object or what biological life form, everybody possesses that quantum field. It's non-physical, it's not electricity. And eventually, once the world realizes, Janet, that there's two paradigms, the electromagnetic paradigm, and there's another paradigm, scalar energy. A scalar energy paradigm is just as real as an electromagnetic dimension, but that day is coming.
That is crazy, insane. Like, and it's still hard for me sometimes to wrap my mind around it, except for that I'm open. I understand that we are created of energy.
Yes.
So why isn't it spilling out and sending that information wave out?
Yes, yeah, good point. Now, many people have, let's say, a really what's called a magnetic personality. In many ways, they absorb or they broadcast this scalar wave, and a lot of people are attracted to them. So it's very palpable. My instruments, every time I'm in my laboratory, I feel the scalar wave. It's tangible. It is palpable. And again, there's so many manifestations. There's an infinite number of manifestations of scalar energy in the world. Again, I mentioned brainwaves as being one of them. So once the world really sets their eyes on this and really begins to understand this, they will see that scalar energy really is the animating force of everything. Scalar energy is the animating force of everything in the universe.
By the way, I'm going to use an F word, but I'm not going to say it. I effing love science. I find it so fascinating. What does scalar energy tell us about ourselves? So if we were to send you a photo and you were to give us back a report of what that energy is putting off and explaining to you, what do we learn?
Yeah. For instance, if you took your photograph and sent it to me, I am always working in real time. Now, scalar energy is only in the present moment. There is no past, there is no future. What do I mean? Scalar energy transcends time and space. I'll get to that later. So your photograph would be the mirror-like image of your soul, mind, and body. And with your photograph inside my instrument, then I would be connecting to your quantum field, your soul, mind, and body. Not you, but your quantum field. And in so doing, I could have an immediate and favorable influence upon your soul, mind, and body. Quite profound.
So I now have another silly question for you. People are using filters on their photos all the time. Does that change the energy field?
No.
Oh, I love it.
No, it doesn't. And even the photoshopping is not going to change your energy field. Why? Because energy, light is fundamental. And no matter how much you might want to Photoshop a photograph, it still is a fundamental source of light. And you cannot overcome these fundamental forces in nature. They are fundamental. They cannot be in any way tampered with.
So I get that it will only show that exact moment in life because it doesn't do the past, doesn't do the future.
Right.
By the way, your blood work is exactly the same. When someone reads your blood work, it's literally that moment in time because our body is constantly changing.
Yes.
It's very true. People think, oh, I'm great for the rest of my life or the next. No, it literally is a photo of what was going on right at that moment. So this is the same sort of thing, but I don't think I got the answer of what I'll learn about myself. Will I learn if I have a health issue? Will I learn if I don't know, what am I going to learn about myself in that moment?
But in that moment, since the instrument is essentially a self-directed energy, what do I mean by that? I don't tell God how to administer this energy. This energy downloads into you and it will instruct you. It's self-awareness. You learn from this download of energy. And I'm not trying to dodge your question. There's no way I could produce a superior force, an animating force, than what God has. So what God has to offer in scalar light is the supreme force of the universe. And that dictates your soul, your mind, and your body. How do you benefit? In many ways. I could say many people are energized. A chakra balancing that I perform, people have very deep and meaningful dreams. Many people can remember past events that escape their memory. Some people say that working with a scalar light instrument, we're able to break apart disassembled germs. All of this takes place in the quantum field. Again, I never work with anybody in person. So there is a myriad number of favorable results. Too many for me to enumerate today.
I love that. So do you think that at some point in the future, this is going to be something we're going to be able to do for ourselves at home?
Yes, we have to. We have to. You know, I'm one of the few scalar energy researchers that I know of that is coming public with his work, but you know, it's an emerging science, and if it's an emerging science, it eventually will catch on. And once it catches on, then millions of people will want this, to incorporate this.
I honestly love that. I can see it being in an app where you just take your photo and it gives you a feedback, right, on what's going on in that moment.
Right. Well, to cut to the chase, that's one of my goals, is to have worldwide apps so that people can just upload their photograph. And no matter whether you're in Africa or in California, we will download your photograph and we will access your quantum field. We will treat you by way of your photograph.
I think that is fabulous. I can't wait for it. So tell us again, some of the things that we can be doing to connect with you and to start finding out this information about ourselves.
Sure. I have one website, scalarlight.com. Now, when you visit the website, learn, read. I've written over 300 articles, and that's plenty for you to get at least a foothold as to what we're doing. And then with that, we have on our homepage a 15-day free trial. Now, all you would do is visit that free session, that free trial, email us, send us your photographs. You can send us photos of your entire family and your pets. We will work with you for 15 days. No questions asked. We do this with anybody around the world. And there's 3 functions with your photograph. We're able to balance your chakras. We're able to negate, break apart germs, pathogens, and we assemble micronutrients. We do all of that by way of your photograph. Your photograph receives the energy.
So, by the way, I've had other people speak who do not this, but similar things where they don't meet somebody and they work with your energy, and you know, they may not have ever seen your face personally, but that through a photo or another form. And people are always wondering, how is that possible? Like, I can't wrap my mind around that. But let me just tell you like this.
Right.
It's the same as prayer, right? I might be praying for someone in Italy or China, and I know that my energy of prayer is moving out into the world and creating change. And the more people doing it, right, the more powerful that impact. So I always tell them, are you praying for something that is not right in front of you that you can physically touch? Yes, everybody does. But you believe that that prayer is going to go out and create change. So everyone seems to be able to relate to that it's kind of like that.
Yes. My instrument is the scientific analog to prayer. What people will do by way of prayer, I do by way of a scientific instrument.
I think that is amazing, like amazing. So can you share a little bit about the science behind what you've developed so that people can wrap their head around it a little bit more? And this whole podcast goes out to people in the holistic field. So a lot of them already get it, but some of them are still not into what they call the woo-woo part of it, right? It has to be something tangible. And I want them to open their minds and educate themselves. And if they still feel that way, great. But at least take the opportunity to educate yourself on what's out there and available to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, my work stems from the work of my predecessor. His name is Galen Hieronymus. He was awarded 3 patents for these instruments, a US, Canadian, and a British patent. So it is indeed a functioning scientific device that's been recognized by 3 separate governments. And what this does, these instruments allow us to access another dimension. It's another paradigm. So it's so important to realize that scalar energy is not electricity. We're working with another paradigm. And in that other paradigm, there are different rules, properties, laws that are outside of electromagnetic behavior. Now, I'll say this. a scalar energy dimension far exceeds the capability of electricity. Electricity really, to me, is inferior energy. It's really going to be passé probably within the next 10, 20 years. Scalar energy is the energy of the future.
Wow. Do you think that maybe you can share some stories of some people that you've worked with?
Sure. We're working with an HIV/AIDS clinic in Delhi, India. And by the way, I've never been to India. And so people from Delhi, India would email me photographs. And with those photographs, I place their photograph inside my instrument. Now, after I work with their force field, after I work with their photograph, many people at that HIV/AIDS clinic had a follow-up test for HIV. And invariably, all of them are no longer HIV positive. All the test results came back negative. Now, that's working, halfway around the world by way of a person's photograph. Now, that cannot be explained according to conventional wisdom. In other words, Newtonian physics cannot explain this function. This is a new and emerging science that only can be explained by this new terminology, by this new understanding of reality.
Well, I can tell you, I'm going to be sending you photos and taking advantage of that 15-day free trial because I want to write about it, and especially when this goes out so people can say, this was my experience and it was, amazing and I love it. But I also understand how the energy works and how you do not have to be in front of someone to create that healing in yourself, both spiritually, physically, and honestly, if you're not spiritually and in the brain first, it won't affect the body at all. So I love that you shared this with us, and I'm going to be sure to put everything in the show notes. Is there anything you want to tell us before we finish up? A message you might want to share?
I'm looking forward to a positive future. I'm looking forward to a world that's different. I'm saying that scalar energy is a gift from God, and it's going to impact our lives and really have a favorable outcome in our lives. That's my moment of hope.
Well, thank you, Tom, because this is all about sharing moments of hope, because I truly believe the message that you just give gets a ripple effect out into the world like a prayer, and it starts changing people. And
Yes.
Somebody is going to hear this and grab that 15-day free trial and start feeling, better in their life, like more complete, more like this is what life's supposed to be about, magical things like this that have been there for us to use all the time. We've just never tapped into them.
Right. It's new technology, but it's been around since the creation of the universe. Thank you.
Yes. I remember when I first typed in when I was ill and modern medicine had failed me, I typed into my keyboard, desperate for health answers, holistic options, right? And this whole world popped up. All I knew were pharmaceuticals. My husband's a doctor. My ex is a doctor. I have doctors and nurses and all that. And all they knew was pharmaceuticals. And that failed me. And when I typed in those words, I was like, when did this stuff get out there? Like, what are these herbs and what is this? And it was like magical. And I was 50 at the time. So I was like, what the heck is all of this stuff? So opening your mind to what's been there for centuries, and we're now just recognizing and tapping into and using that in your life can really change your life.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. It was a pleasure having you on here. And definitely we will put all this information and the link to his offer in his show notes so you'll be able to send in your photos. We want your feedback. So definitely be hashtagging us and tagging us so that we can share your feedback with others. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.